The argument over the preservation of rainforests in eastern Australia seems to go on and on with no sign of resolution. In New South Wales, the state government has apparently put the problem into the too hard basket. In the meantime, it's banned the taking of timber in some rainforests, while a policy on logging is being thrashed out. The bans have had a disastrous effect on some tiny timber towns and the people who live in them. It's highlighted the conflict between the interests of the conservationists and those of the timber workers who rely on the rainforests for a living. Kenyon Castle reports.
Timber trucks don't stop at this sawmill anymore. It's some time since the last one did, and no logs means no work. This is Yarras, a small community of timber workers about 70 kilometres inland from the New South Wales tourist resort of Port Macquarie. However, Yarras has none of the glitter or tinsel of a holiday playground. Rusting machinery, remnants of 30 years of logging, litters the town. This is what one could only describe as the main street of Yarras, population 100. But Yarras is soon to be wiped off the map, along with its 28 houses and its mill. For this is a timber town that's heard the death knell.
I mean, losing your job's bad enough. I know how I feel, but by gee, to lose your home as well, that's a big thing.
The reason those former employees have lost not only their jobs but their houses is because this is a company town, and the company is closing the mill, along with everything else.
Well, we haven't got very much. We've never had a general store or anything, but we've got a two-teacher school that looks in danger of losing a lot of pupils if people move away, and our water gets cut off at Christmas time, and our garbage and toilet pickup ends next week, I believe. So we've got to dispose of that ourselves after that. We've been told we can stay on here in the houses until we find something, so that's something, I guess.
Wood Products Yarras Proprietary Limited owns the mill and the houses its employees live in. Although this accommodation may not have been too flash, the products which came out of Yarras were rather special. This mill has produced in the past what is considered to be the finest plywood in Australia. All the wooden panelling for Sydney's Opera House came off this and other machines at the mill. The panelling in the new High Court building in Canberra and in the Victorian Centre for the Arts was made here. Undoubtedly, great achievements for a bush mill. The end of all that is now in sight. 140 were employed here last year. Just 12 are left, and for them there's little hope of work for much longer.
It's 3 weeks to the outside. Can't see last any longer than that.
And then what are you going to do?
Well, there's no immediate prospect. Everything's closing down on the go, so what can you do? Sit on your ass and wait for the dollars, I suppose.
So you'll be out of a job like everybody else?
Yeah, all of us. It was me and wife and son, we all worked here at one time, but last, nearly 14 years. And we're all gone.
You think it's a bit rough?
Rough. You can't get any rougher.
It's not only rough for those at Yarras. The whole country's timber industry is in its biggest decline in living memory. Not only are mill workers going on the dole, but chainsaw operators, bulldozer drivers and timber carters are all being laid off as the downturn bites into their jobs. Wauchope is the closest town to Yarras. It's known locally as Timber Town. Timber is the district's lifeblood. At the moment, it's just about stopped flowing. In the last 6 weeks, 4 of the 12 mills have either closed down or are about to. The remainder are either on a 4-day week or the workers are taking a compulsory holiday. Timber products are piling up in yards and orders are falling to a trickle.
It's frightening. The problem, even if and when this present recession does lift itself to any reasonable degree, the time that it will take to lift this surplus stock off the ground and get it into the industry in conjunction with production really is very difficult to estimate.
The major problem is fewer and fewer houses are being built. Housing represents nearly half the timber market. In the last year, the number of new homes built fell by more than 30%. Nearly 1,000 mill workers have already been laid off this year in New South Wales alone. 200 of them around Wauchope, in mills like this. While this mill may look productive, come next Tuesday, there'll be nothing here. It's just another mill that's had to close down. It's gone broke, and the receiver has moved in and shifting the machinery out next week. As for the 16 people employed here, well, they're finishing up today with little prospect of finding any more work.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've came here this morning to have a little bit of a discussion and find out off you whether anybody has got any ideas on where you're going and what you're going to do. Have any of you found a job or work anywhere? Or
those at Yarras are already discovering what it's like for an entire tight-knit community to be out of work.
I went to the DMR camp the other day to put in for a job, and the first sign I seen was sorry, no vacancies. Went to the council. All they done was shake their head and screw their face up. I left my name hoping.
To live in Yarras meant work at the mill for father, son, mother and daughter. These people are bitter about their dismissal.
We just don't know what to do. My husband's still working at the moment, but how long he keeps going and what we do then with no home, I don't know.
Unlike the hardwood mills in the district, which have no orders, this mill had plenty of orders. Yarras mills timber from rainforests. It made products much in demand.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to find a job as a third-year apprentice unless you're starting out again.
According to the company, the lack of a decision on the part of the state government on the logging of rainforests in the immediate area has made it uneconomic to keep these mill workers on.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, it's fairly obvious that we haven't worked anything out. Nobody's found anything yet. The situation's still the same.
Glenda Henry, the organiser of today's meeting, has worked at the mill since she was 15. It was very much part of her life, as it was with the others that used to work here. She's upset that the government hasn't been able to do more to keep the mill alive.
Very bitter. Really bitter. Because there's just no need for it. It's just so unnecessary for all these people. And it's not just people here in this mill. It's people all over. Like, this is the whole valley of this place here. We're known as a timber town. Wauchope's our timber town. That's where we shop. Well, how can you have a timber town without timber? And I mean, the timber that come out of here, the finished product, it's really something to see. I mean, it's in all the High Court buildings. It's the Opera House is all here. You know, we did it all.
While the mill workers took obvious pride in their jobs, surprisingly, they don't blame the owners for its closure. This is probably because the owners used to be employees at the mill themselves. 18 months ago, 4 of the management staff borrowed about $250,000 from government sources. One of them was the production manager, and another, the company secretary, Jeff Doyle. They bought the mill from their previous employers. The prospect then was another 6 years' access to the rainforests in the Hastings district. But with pressure from conservation groups, an environmental impact study last year was carried out in the area. It recommends that logging continue for only 2 years and not 6. That recommendation is still being considered by the Department of Environment and Planning. Until a decision is taken one way or another, no logging is permitted in this rainforest. And to date, the New South Wales government has shown no desire to speed up the process.
Well, they lent us the money in March of 1981, and by May of 1982, through government inaction, they'd run us out of logs, and we've got to close up, put our people off.
When it was realised earlier this year that Yarras was to close, this man, the president of the Chamber of Commerce at Wauchope, decided to do something about it. So, on May the 8th, he organised a blockade of the streets of Wauchope.
We completely blocked Ockley Highway off for 3 hours, and we had 10 speakers on a platform behind me here, and we received coverage from the media.
And if there are impediments put in preventing people who do want to work, you know, those impediments have got to be taken away.
It was the direct result of that we were able to have a meeting, a deputation with Mr. Rand over that problem. The outcome of it was that during the involvement with the environmental court case with the Forestry Commission and their EIS, the Environmental Impact Study, covered a certain area, he ordered the forestry to supply logs to the 3 mills from outside that area until such times as the environmental issue could be resolved.
Not only was another site found, but because it was so far away, 200 kilometres, the government is subsidising the cost of getting the logs to the mill. 2 other mills involved in logging rainforest timber accepted this temporary arrangement. Yarras didn't, as it considered the subsidy wasn't enough to cover their costs.
We're a lot more labour intensive. As well, we're a fairly new and young company, as you mentioned earlier. The other 2 companies have been established for some time and they can stand a lot to make a loss for a period.
But the timber trucks from that new forest come straight past this door, don't they?
That is correct. They come straight past
surely
this
it would
door.
be cheaper for you than them to get the timber in here?
Yes, it would. It is cheaper for us, but our product range, how we operate, it's a different operation. In Hancock Brothers, they have a quota of 10,000 metres a year. They employ 27 men. This company, we have a quota of 11,080 metres per year. We employ 140 people.
So what would the subsidy have to be to make it viable for you?
$5 per cubic metre, and as we use around about 1,000 metres a month, that's $5,000 per month.
So the subsidy being what it is at the moment, it's $5 short.
$5 short.
The irony is that extra $5,000 a month would keep this mill open. Yet the Rand government shows no sign of providing that extra assistance, and the company is determined not to proceed without it. That clash of wills has resulted in jobs being lost. With unemployment running at twice the national average in the district, it's not only going to have a serious impact on the area, but it's going to make finding a job for those dismissed almost impossible. While some may question the mill's decision not to keep open, even with the partial subsidy, the workers support the company's stand, though at stake is their livelihood.
We've told all our employees that we'll keep them in their, or they can stay in their houses until May of next year, but after that we have to, unless we can come to some arrangement to get logs from the government, we would have to start demolishing those homes.
Why have you got to do that?
Well, this land is leased, and part of the lease was to return it to its natural state.
So this is likely to be flattened within a year?
It could be, yes.
While the destiny of the township of Yarras seems pretty certain, the area flattened and returned to a paddock, the destiny of its people is a long way from being resolved.
The story of Yarras is mirrored elsewhere. More layoffs are expected in other sawmills right around the country over the next few months as the timber industry